everybody. I'm Yael Tamar. I would like to do a quick show of hands. How many people here own real estate? Okay, keep your hand up if you own real estate beyond your living quarters. Okay, awesome. How many people own stocks? Okay, ETFs or indices? Everybody, I'm guessing. You have pension or no? No pension? No Keren Ishtalmut, something? No? Oh, okay. Okay, how many have digital assets? Okay. Do we know what digital assets are? Okay, no. Okay, cool. So what we're talking today is about real assets. So the first group of assets that I mentioned were what's called the real world assets, right? As a juxtaposition to natively digital assets. And what I want to bring to this discussion is the availability of these assets on the blockchain. So which helps people that live in this digital world to get exposure to inherently physical assets and how we place them on the blockchain. So that's me, but that's actually not interesting. The reason why I'm here or generally get invited to events is because I help bring complicated subjects and concepts to the level that a 5-year-old can understand. Although now my kids are older, so maybe I'm not as good at that anymore. But I'm here to basically help bring this real asset experience to the digital crowd. So first question to everybody. Don't we have enough assets already? Do we really need to put real estate and to add all of this stuff onto the blockchain? Mati, what do you think? Do we need more assets? It's going to happen whether we need it or not, right? So do we need more assets? Back in 2009, right, the governments and the central banks said, you shall be happy with fiat. It will buy you Tesla stock, and real estate, right? So that it was enough. It was enough. Yet, what happened? The great Satoshi brought the people the gift of Bitcoin, and the world was never the same, right? So it was never the same, not just because of crypto, right? Plenty of people in the world don't have crypto, but now we know about a different way to own assets, to hold assets, to transfer assets, right? There's a different system out there. And whether we want it or not, it's happening, right? So now the answer, don't we have enough assets? It's a multiple choice question, it's a quiz. So no, because Elon Musk has more. No, because most of them are owned by BlackRock. No, because crypto assets are less than 1%, right, of global assets, private and public equities. No, because the more tradable assets there are, the faster the economy moves and grows, right? In fact, most of the assets out there are not tradable. They're private. And in these times when the liquidity is very low, the liquidity, by the way, is the speed with which an asset converts to cash, right? So if you hold real estate, it takes time to sell it. If you hold stocks, it's very fast, right? So it's a very liquid asset. Now, when the money is expensive, as it is today, you don't have enough liquidity to buy, especially risky assets. So that's why startups don't get a lot of investment in this time, right? So risky assets suffer in this time. If we had an instrument that allowed us to trade private assets, we'd have much more liquidity in the market, right? And that's where my vision and mission are. Okay, another question, another multiple choice question. Why do you need to digitize physical assets? So number one, because we're moving into the metaverse, and that's a new American dream in the metaverse. That's a great question. So that's in the next lecture. No, basically, a metaverse is a game-like environment where you can both own assets, trade assets, play games, and do these virtual experiences. Virtual world. Thank you. That was easier. So to make it easier to move assets, why why do we need to digitize physical assets? To make it easier to move them, right? Even real estate, how difficult is it to sell it? Private equity, how difficult? It's impossible, by the way, to sell it without a licensed third party. Even Bitcoin, in some, in many cases, it's, even though sell it over the counter, it takes effort, right, and time. So we, even in the crypto world, we need to make things easier, right? So, and in the non-digital world, it's even more important. Now, to leverage assets without banks, right? So today, in order to get a loan outside of the crypto world, where it's quite simple, right? You basically stake or place your cryptocurrency under a certain lock and get a loan against it, right? In the physical world, it's very, very complicated to place this type of a lock or place it into a wallet environment where nobody can take it out. So that's another reason to digitize the physical asset, right? So you can easily do the same applications. To diversify, right? Even with less resources. What does that mean? When you don't have a lot of money to invest, it's more difficult to diversify, right? Especially if, let's say, you're buying real estate, the cheapest apartment is, in Israel, is depending on the city, 200,000 to, let's say, millions of shekels. And if you don't have a lot, you can diversify. But when physical assets become digital, then you can create a portfolio, and you can also easily redistribute your portfolio because there is less friction. To open markets to more players, right? So anybody with assets, not only large institutions that have a lot of assets right now can leverage them, almost anybody can. And then you're more free to play with your assets. So that's the reason why. Now, let's talk about how to digitize physical assets. Magic? Any? NASDAQ? You want to repeat? Smart contract. What is a smart contract?
So basically, it's something that WEB3 invented.
Yeah.
And it's writing code to be the judge between two parties.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it will hold the currencies, it will hold the two wallets, and it will decide when to pass the wallet between the wallets.
Yeah.
Through code.
What's the most important part of that? The word that wasn't said. Because if okay, I have I don't have a wallet on me, but I have a wallet. You have a wallet. I'll just automate. Is to automate the whole process. So that is, I think, the number one value in general.
By the way, I'm a developer and I've been written.
Yeah.
Solidity, the
yes.
language.
Okay, so let's talk about the blockchain smart contract like we're 5, right? It's magical. It's a record storage mechanism essentially, but it's different from the internet, right? People use fancy words like a ledger and transactions, right? But ultimately, when you place something on the internet, because right now there's, by the way, lots of great platforms where you can make transactions, where you can create assets, buy them, sell them. You have those, right? People buy, things on Amazon, books on Amazon, and a lot of things. Now, why not just the internet? One of my friends invented this great comparison. Internet storing info across space, blockchain storing info over time with proof, right? So I made a transaction, a crypto transaction 4 years ago, or somebody sent me some crypto 4 years ago. There was an accounting question, right? And the platform through which it was made didn't exist anymore. But the transaction will exist forever, right? There is proof. Because of this automated smart contract, which we'll see in a minute, it allowed, number one, to know where the money came from, where it went, right? Where it originated, which wallet, where it went, at what time, how much, right? All of that is there forever, and there is proof. Why is there proof? Because the smart contract actually goes and checks everything and checks that there is even enough resources in that wallet to send, right? If there's not enough, there's no transaction. So all of that is written in code, right, in Solidity. So that's why it's the magical mechanism that allows to store, record transactions forever. And
by the way,
yeah,
just two languages that you can create smart contract. One is Solidity and the other one is Rust. So true. Rust is for Solana. No, true, man. You can do contract in C++. Also, networks, in for Aptos. Okay, so like, this is like take this perspective as like limited. No worries. They are doing contracts, smart contracts in JavaScript. Okay. So.
All right. So what is the smart contract? The magical automation tool. For me, it's the magical automation tool. It's confirming who, when, was it authorized, how it was authorized, was it finalized, right? Great. All of these things that, all of these things are written in. Now, let's keep this record safe. It's there forever. You can't erase it. You can't get rid of it, right? Now, on top of that smart contract, you can build a lot because you can basically go and say, if this exists, then now, if this exists, for example, a contract that locks money in a wallet, if this exists, then now we can lend this wallet money, right? Because the owner of the wallet can take it out. Now, if this exists, now we can do this, right? So authorize certain apps to access. So wallet is also an identity. It's just like Google authorization, or Facebook, you log in with Facebook, log in with MetaMask. And that's a safe way because, wallets inherently are built to be safe and only accessed by you with lots of hurdles. So you can identify yourself and log into things. So you enable a lot of magic with all of this. And it was built in a way that you can automate. That's why I think blockchain and AI are best friends, right? Because now you can also get signals, right, from like a bot that's built by, Alexander has a bot, Oracles, and this system was built. That's why we call Web3 the revolution, because this system was built for that type of automation. Now, put on top of that real world assets, which we're working in, to also automate and systematize the way that we place them on these rails, and right. So finally, how do we digitize physical assets with this blockchain smart contract? We are going to try to affect things like ownership. So a database that holds the names of the owners, right, of the asset, keeping records for all the transactions, trading. How do we trade physical assets? Because the ownership is placed in other databases, right? For real estate or for private equities, there is somewhere a piece of paper that says who the owner is. Now, we have a great tool that's called a security. Great tool. It's great in terms of that we don't have to invent it, right? Now, you can basically take that piece of paper, place it in some custody, and then on top of that, issue another product. Now, that product essentially is a company that owns that piece of paper, owns that asset. Now, that company, those shares, you can actually record them on the blockchain now, right? So you can record them on the blockchain, you can start doing transactions and things of that nature. Like, as I mentioned, collateralizing is a fancy word. That means locking something for the purpose of lending against it, right? So all of these things now already we can do with blockchain. The only problem is that they're still expensive and they're still mainly available to large institutions. And that makes it inaccessible to a lot of people that today can trade stocks, for example, public stocks. And for private assets, you have these tools already within institutions. And I will go through a couple of examples. Now, let's recap the whole ecosystem, right? Especially for those who are not 100% on what's the difference between blockchain and Web3 and crypto. So the bottom layer of this whole thing that I call the Web3 infrastructure is the blockchain, right? Like Ethereum blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain, Solana, which actually is layer 2, but I basically put all the layers in the bottom, right? Automation decentralization tool. That's what I call the blockchain. This magical automation decentralization tool. And those two things are different, right? Automation is being able to do things without a third party, which essentially also is decentralization because you don't need to be connected to a centralized party. But for me, that's not even the most important quality. For me, the most important quality is that you don't have to have anyone involved. You can forget about it. Nobody needs to keep these records safe. They're safe by design. They're safe by design, right? That's the bottom layer. We talked about smart contracts. That's the second layer, because you can actually write as many as you want. And there's all these standards that over time accumulate, but you can have a smart contract for securities transfers, for crypto transfers, for recording ownership, which essentially NFTs have pioneered and championed, non-fungible tokens. Somebody else should give a lecture about that. And so that's the second layer, the smart contract. That's basically code that speaks to the blockchain, right? That tells the blockchain what to do, right? Because the blockchain can keep things safe, can pass transactions, can do all of that stuff. And then now smart contracts are basically mechanisms. And on top of that, you have digital assets, which a lot of people said that they had. It's great. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, but also lots of tokens. Here I placed, that's the name of a real estate token that my company issued. But essentially, this is both crypto, inherently, coins, right? This is altcoins, this is security tokens, this is NFTs, any type of a digital asset that you can store in your wallet. And basically, on top of that, we have the UI and basically all of the usability of the Web3. And I call it the Web3 applied layer. And that's all the different websites that you have, exchanges for trading, loans, right? Places where you can get a, so to speak, a mortgage, a loan. You have, DeFi applications where you can place your crypto together in a pool and then it will earn a lot more. And now you have AI, right? So a lot of different applications. Now that's built on top of that layer. And as the time progresses and Web3 becomes even more advanced, even more automated, even more useful, we will be able to create our own, Web3 applications easily. Now, if you have a wallet where your digital assets are sitting and you're able to tokenize, we call it tokenize your home or tokenize your portfolio of investments and things like that, you can, easily go and apply for a loan. When you're placing them, you can maybe get due diligence services from, like, with real estate, you have an appraiser, like in the real world, you might have that in the digital world, right? Somebody comes and checks that everything's legit, some sort of a legal service. So all of this opens a whole new industry, right? So thus, it makes our physical assets compatible with systems that are built on Web3. So everything connects. By the way, in the traditional financial world, nothing connects. And that's why it takes weeks to get money from America, for example. Because literally, most of the time, somebody has to push a piece of paper from one place to another or send an email. Like, it's actually insane that in today's world, banks are built on different systems, especially in Israel. Now they actually have connected things around and we have open banking. But in that world, the Web 2, Web 1, or Web 0, I don't know what they're using. Today I was trying to take money out of Bank Hapoalim and I posted a story. It's a Windows 7. And I write them, send them a picture. I was like, guys, Windows 8 came out in 2012. And we're here, right? We're here where you can connect virtually anything to everything to everything, right? And that's amazing. So this is a use case of St. Regis Aspen coin that my company Solid Block has done in 2018. And essentially, what was revolutionary about this is that up until then, smart contracts weren't new. You could tokenize digital assets, right? So inherently, it's easy when something originated on the blockchain. You can basically start selling parts of it. You can break it in parts and sell. But if there is a physical hotel, it's a little more difficult. So what we did was we created a smart contract that allowed to essentially take a piece of a hotel, a share of a hotel, and allow people to buy it and sell it and store it in an account under their name. But also it included compliance, which is essentially checking who the person is, making sure they are legit and things like that, right? So that was the first transaction that we did. Now it's trading. It has it's real estate, so it doesn't trade in a volatile way on an exchange called T0. And I guess the cool thing about it is that most people don't get an opportunity to invest in an asset like that. It's called a prime asset, that everybody knows. And so that's one of the examples in real estate.
So anyone can.
Yeah. Anybody at the moment, if you're what's called a qualified or accredited investor, meaning earning over a certain amount or having a certain number of assets. And that's why I said it's not accessible to the masses yet, mainly because it's not cost effective. And also the risks are rather high, right? Like they're not very high with the hotel. That's a safe asset. But if hotels are using it, then stocks, then anybody will be using it, right?
Profits are like dividend based?
Yes.
Or?
That's another thing, by the way. Thank you for mentioning that. And this is yield. This is a bond. And so the cool thing is that in your wallet, obviously, that's where you're getting your interest payments.
Taking the hotel.
Yeah. But you can also stake the token on top of that if you want it to technically.
It's like a way to generate a community, investors or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's just the beginning. But
I know.
At the end of the day,
you trade the taboo of the place?
No, you don't. You don't trade the record itself.
Yeah,
Remember, we said the record is sitting somewhere. We don't touch the record. Sure. We create a new record on top.
Okay. So you trade the.
Yeah. You don't want to work with a.
New smart contract, like proxy.
Yeah. Although now the Land Authority of Israel is going to insert blockchain and possibly tokenize. So, and actually, I was a part of the tender with Ernst & Young. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it, but we won, basically. So, cut it out from this. It's a secret. Nobody say anything to anyone. So, yeah. So, what can you do with this thing? Thank you for playing. This is exactly where we're going with it. At the moment, it's large asset owners. You can be your own investment bank. You can start playing with your assets as an investment bank would. And they have the tools. There's no reason we shouldn't have the tools. And especially, by the way, in different communities like that are tight-knit, like, for example, the Haredi community in Israel that already operate a lot on the communal level. And you can have large assets when you put them together. So you can invest in private assets more securely, right? A lot of people that don't understand investment very well will get into startups and lose all their money. I'm sure that didn't happen to anybody here, so we're not going to talk about it. So basically, now with tokenization, you have more security, more traceability, you know how many people invested in an asset. You have a lot of information once it's digital. There are liquidity mechanisms for everything. And you can start, like I said, creating portfolios of different risks. And again, this makes market more democratized, creates more liquidity, right? And you can actually, mimic S&P 500, but for private companies. And that's exactly what our company does. It's called DIBS Capital, and that's a new name for what used to be called Solid Block. Amit here is my co-founder and CFO. And what the problem we're solving is actually how do you move the product? It's great. Okay, everything's tokenized now. Like, can we relax? No, we can't, because nobody knows where things are. Nobody is acting like a salesperson or a broker, right? So that is inherently the solution, is to connect brokers that are going to be selling. I'm done. And because I don't want to really get involved in it, after the, if you guys want examples of all kinds of real world assets on the blockchain, I can send you the presentation gladly, and you can read about all the great things, and especially read up on CBDCs. They're interesting. Central bank currencies might be a reality in Israel, but there are quite a lot of institutional applications of this. There's not a lot of non-institutional applications of this that work, again, because there is no scale, there is no sales force. You know, people may have an asset and may want to start selling it, but they don't have brokers. So that's why we're here, and to bring this amazing market to the masses, so to speak. Thank you.